And you see here in this Rima, Paul is standing up against the Roman Empire and the Roman system, trying to explain himself. But it's interesting, he is in the grace of an able type figure, Felix, who does not execute him or just toss him into prisons to be tortured and beaten, but allows a relationship with him, and continues asking him about the faith, asking him, getting to know him. He commands the centurion to keep Paul and to let him have liberty, and told him not to forbid any of his friends to provide for visit him. So he is essentially under house arrest. But again, in that Roman system, he could have much more severe punishments at the hand of such judges, as it being a very tyrannical system, a lot of political corruption, a lot of tremendous centralized power. But he has the grace of God to continue this relationship with Felix. And this should remind us to connect with able type figures, especially those that are prepared by God, those who have made their voice heard, those who are standing up and resisting tyranny. That's why it's so essential for all of us to open our mouths and to express our stance. Not so that we get a huge YouTube following or we get a huge this or that. That's really secondary, tertiary. It's so that you exercise your right in resistance against tyranny. Just by the fact that you are expressing your opinion against the liberal Democrats and neocon Republicans, who are really bringing in an oligarchy and communist, socialist, fascist type governance, is you are exercising your freedom, your liberty, to stand up peacefully against tyrants. And as you do that, as you exercise those rights, as you exercise those freedoms that we have still in the U.S., even though they're trying to censor us and censor net censorship and do these kind of things, there's still many, many pockets, even if they go after the big ones. There's a continual steady stream of new channels, new people that are coming up. And it's all about standing up and exercising that power. Okay? Who was it that called it? The animating contest of liberty. The animating contest. It is a contest and it's animating, it's invigorating, and it is required of us, as this Massachusetts Provincial Congress says, as Christians, social duty, to continue to speak out and resist the urges of masses towards tyranny, the tyranny of the mass, the mob, the tyranny of the masses, and socialism, communism, fascism, you name it, anything in that order. When we do such a thing, and we do open our mouth and open our own channel, which is so easy to do nowadays, and we have now people, kids in our Korean community and Japanese community now starting to open channels. Yusu, the Kurita girls, are doing a great job, releasing Korean videos on Facebooking their stuff. They're probably the only voice in Korea right now that are like hardcore conservative, like more conservative than the conservatives. But of course, they're really becoming the voice, and they're being contacted and forwarded by major young people, millennial conservative channels. So just by releasing that, some of their videos have like 20,000 views or some of that. Which is great. When I see that, I'm happy to see that. Think about it. They're very fantastic young ladies, trained very hard, very smart. Have a wonderful spirit. Have a tremendous faith for Christ and a love for God. And if they're watching this, I know they're laughing right now. They're smiling. But wonderful, wonderful young ladies. And they got energized. Because I've been ragging on them and ragging on everybody else to start your YouTube channel and open your mouth. Speak out against the tyranny, because every single one of us speaking, or if you're doing music that's creating kingdom type music, that is exposing Satan's kingdoms, whatever it is, whatever your genre, it doesn't matter. The fact is you're opening your mouth against tyranny, against political Satans, against the exploitation of children, whatever it is. And they do a wonderful job coming out, and really they're probably becoming the only voice in Korea, especially the millennial group, that is saying, hey, look, we don't like the leftist lunatics. They're communists. But we also don't like the neocon Republicans, because they're always pushing for big government too. And that's, of course, the angle that's really critical. Some of the conservatives in Korea, they say, well, we don't like the liberals, but we want to just be the conservatives. What they're doing is they're pushing them, say, hey, you're not really conservative if you're pushing for big government. You're not really conservative if you're not even talking about citizens' right to defend themselves. And for example, they made their last video was talking about guns. This, I think their recent video was survival bag. And then the most recent one was about women should get military training. And they're very realistic about it. They said, hey, I'm not talking about getting the full 2-year training. We can start this in stages and, have a summer break where all the women are required to go at least train some basic survival skills and, sleep outside a couple times, what I'm saying? Get some basic training. So because Korea is a ceasefire nation, so if by any chance there is a war, at least the girls who are the most vulnerable because they're physically weaker than men on average, so they're more vulnerable to men, and of course they are a target for predatory men, especially in a war scenario, for rape. So it's good for them to understand basic survival skills, basic self-defense, basic how to use, a weapon, things like that. That all our girls here train. But even if they did like 3 months, they can start, 4-week to 6-week program. That was a great suggestion she was suggesting, Eugenie was. I love it. That's a great suggestion. That's a good, steady way to start at least getting the female population involved in understanding that they have to be sovereign. In the end, the police are always going to be, when seconds count, the police are always minutes away. And it's not like we're against police, but it's just a simple fact. They don't live in your house. You don't carry around a police officer. What's that old, there's like a banner that says, I carry a gun because a cop is too heavy. It's not like it's their fault either, because many times the districts that they have to cover are so big, they just simply can't get to you on time. All right? So we have these young people that are starting to stand out and stand up. We have Tomoha Imase, who just started her channel there in Japan, Survival Queen Japan. We'll cue those videos and maybe show you guys some clips of that, of Yus and Tomoha Imase's new channel, covering her survival bag. Very cute, very wonderful. And this is like, they're like the only ones in Asia that are actually doing, there's nobody that's talking about survival bag in Asia, in Korea. There's nobody, almost nobody in Japan who's talking about a survival bag. And they literally got ICBM missiles flying over them in Hokkaido. I mean, this is just, it's insane. It's insane. And by you exercising your voice, starting your YouTube channel, I know you've been meaning to do it, but you haven't done it yet. And maybe today is the day where you get a spark under your booty and say, hey, I got to do it today. You're helping these kids and these people in other parts of the world, like Asia, who are under the threat of nuclear war. And it's not about getting, there's some YouTube channels that get, a couple of views at every broadcast they do. So what? Who cares? It's all about a spiritual exercise. You standing up and resisting tyranny. Because every one of us, in concert, standing against them, is the swarm, is the unbeatable enemy. Because they can get rid of some of the behemoths and the big target, the big players in the liberty field, like InfoWars or Breitbart. They can try to get rid of them and censor them, which they do. But they can't censor everybody. And the more people that activate and realize that they're purposely trying to make you feel small. They're purposely trying to make you feel desperate. They're purposely making you feel vulnerable. They're purposely making you feel insecure. They're purposely making you feel like you can't make a difference anyways because the establishment is so massive and so corrupt anyways. And even though in your local area you're scared to stand up against anything because that's the whole culture there. I get it. But just exercising your spiritual authority and exercising your spiritual right to call out and express reality against tyranny, against those who seek to establish tyranny, against those who seek to control and rule with authoritarian rule, against those who actually seek to create a worldwide communist network. I mean, this is insane. But these people exist. It's basically the psychotic class who are into pedophilia, necrophilia, human killing, vampire therapy, which is basically blood transfusion with little babies, killing children with abortions. I mean, this is the type of culture they're in. It's a psychotic class that that will not stop at anything to get power. And if normal good people, en masse, don't stand up against them, they will pick off their major enemies and then slowly implement their system of incredible delusional psychosis onto the public, which of course they're trying to do. Our guest that we had scheduled for Tuesday, because of technical difficulties, we were not able to have him on. Rusty Hexter will hopefully, God willing, be joining us today. And we're talking about the dangers of vaccines. I mean, some of them they all have antifreeze, aluminum at 6,000 times the level of normal, of FDA approved levels in drinking water. I mean, just ridiculous. Thimerosal, some of the most deadly poisons on the planet are in the vaccines, which you're then pumping into 2-year-old children. Wow. Studies on vaccines that we've shown unvaccinated children being healthier, vaccinated children being the most unhealthy children. Isn't it funny that the vaccine is supposed to help your health, but then it makes you unhealthy? Isn't it funny that flu shot is supposed to stop the flu when it gives you the flu? I mean, this is ridiculous. And when you look at the crap that's in there, it's unbelievable. I digress. The point is, standing up against any one of these issues, or for any one of these issues, you could be an expert in vaccines. You could be an expert in the anti-abortion movement. You could be an expert in forensic analysis and acoustics that do things like the Health Ranger. We showed it, right? The Health Ranger. We may have to look at it briefly and just Again,
The sound acoustic analysis.
yes.
So that is.
These type of people are bringing their own angles, their own expertise to the table. And you can too. You have your own expertise. You can be a carpenter. You could be an engineer. You could be a teacher. It doesn't matter. You have your own angle, which is unique and fresh and which other people can connect with if you stand up and resist tyranny. So our purpose at the King's Report is not only to have, people watch us. That's wonderful because, of course, we know a lot of the sanctuary brothers and sisters are watching as like a hundoke and a spiritual condition. And of course, we appreciate everybody tuning in. But at the same time, that's not enough. We want you all to be activated, to have your own channels and to have your own networks, because then we can force multiply. And this message of the kingdom gospel can spread through your channels and your social network to other people who are waiting and prepared and able type, just like Felix was able type that Paul was talking to and was able to have a relationship with 2 years. God is now calling us to the able type people that he has prepared. Christians, well-meaning people who just have common sense and have a conscience, who don't want tyranny. These kind of people can connect with us. It is now time for you all to rise and to start touching the networks that God has already prepared for you. Of course, not for our own glory, but for his kingdom, his constitution, and his nation that will cover the earth. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us.